Good morning. This is your today's focus for Thursday, October the 20th, 2022 at 9:47 a.m. Central Time. Welcome everyone to the Today's Focus podcast series. The goal of this podcast series is very simple: to give you something spiritually to focus on. With all the difficulties and distractions in life and so much available to you, you can find your attention and your focus just going from one thing to another thing to another thing. And I want to give you one thing to help you set your affection on things above versus all the things down here, that you can look at this and worry about this and frustrated about this and trying to figure this out and this and this and this and this. And you can just stop and focus on one thing. And today's focus, your today's focus, is that the right way to say that? Your today's focus is vain philosophy. Vain philosophy. It was about 12:20 a.m. this morning that I was having kind of a discussion about philosophy. And so I thought, let's just take that and bring this to today's focus, because I think it's very important. And I want to focus specifically on the concept of vain philosophy. And we find this concept in Colossians chapter 2. Colossians chapter 2, let me read it to you. Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. So we have a warning here. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit. Now, I guess we call it vain philosophy when it's really vain deceit. So maybe I should just say philosophy. So maybe I should remove the word vain. Probably should. We'll remove the word vain because it's actually vain deceit. But in my mind, I was thinking vain philosophy. And there's a reason why. But let's just go, don't let any man spoil you through philosophy. Let's go with that today. The vain, there's a reason I wanted to use that word, but to be textually correct, to be biblically correct, the vain is connected to deceit. So don't let any man spoil you through philosophy. So for your focus today, let's do this. Let's look up the word philosophy as it's used in Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. Let's do that. Let's look up the word philosophy. And the Greek word for philosophy here is this. All right. Colossians chapter 2, verse 8. The Greek word for philosophy is this.
Strong's G 5385. Philosophia.
That's the Greek word translated philosophy in Colossians 2:8. Philosophia. Now, it's Strong's definition. Philosophia is basically philosophy. I mean, they don't really add much to it. The outline of biblical usage is a love of wisdom. Philosophia, a love of wisdom. All right. It's used either of a zeal for or a skill in any art or science, any branch of knowledge. Used once in the New Testament of the theology, or rather theosophy, of certain Jewish Christian ascetics, which busied itself with refined and speculative inquiries into the nature and classes of angels, into the ritual of the Mosaic law and the regulations of Jewish tradition respecting practical life. That's interesting the way this works. So it's used either of zeal for a skill or any art or science, any branch of knowledge. And they say it's used once in the New Testament, all right, of theology, or rather theosophy, of certain Jewish Christian ascetics who busied themselves, right, with refined and speculative inquiries into the nature and classes of angels, into the ritual of the Mosaic law. So don't let any, if we go back to Colossians 2:8, don't let anyone spoil you through philosophy. So it sounds like it's not so much the idea, hey, don't think about philosophy, but don't let philosophy spoil you. So should our focus be on the word philosophy, or should our focus be on the word spoil? Well, let's go to the word spoil. Let's do that. Let's go to the word spoil. And what does it mean by spoil? Well, the Greek word for spoil here, if I can find it in the interlinear, it is this Greek word. It is this Greek word.
Strong's G 2071. SMI. Thayer's Lexicon.
Okay, hang on.
I me.
Now, this word is not very helpful. SMI is not very helpful at all. In fact, hang on. I'm going to go back, make sure that's the Greek word. That is I know it's SMI. That is wild. Okay. It's used 188 times. Yeah, that is not helpful. Not helpful at all. Okay. SMI does not help us. Lest any man spoil you through philosophy. I think that word spoil is important to understand, but the Greek word here, esomai, I'm verifying it like multiple times. That is not helpful. I'm going to look this up in a different translation. Look it up in a different translation. All right. Our today's focus is, well, we're focusing on what today's focus should actually be. Philosophy, but don't let any man spoil you through philosophy. It's not so much the philosophy, but what someone does with it seems to be kind of the reading here, or I hope you agree. Let's do this. Let's read it from a different translation. Colossians 2:8. Be careful no one takes you captive through philosophy. No one takes you captive through philosophy. That's a completely kind of different. Don't let anyone spoil you, right? Which the Greek word esomai, and I'm going to look at Thayer's lexicon really quick. Spoil you. That's the King James word. It's used so many times, but none of them really have any major significance. Strong's definition doesn't do much for us. Will be, shall, come to pass, live long, sojourn, like that. That is no help. There's something. Hang on. I'm going to look here. To just make sure that there's not a problem here. Nope. Colossians 2:8. Esomai. Wow. That is just not helpful at all. Hang on. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to the interlinear. I'm going to go back to esomai. Today's focus may turn into an entire study. You see, where's no help at all. No help at all. There's just literally no help here for this Greek word at all. To capture you gets the idea. So here's what I want us to do for your focus today. I want you to think about Colossians 2:8. But remember, I said for this podcast series, I don't want to just give you like a verse. I don't want to just give you a verse. I want to try to give you something specific. I want you to consider what this I think possibly the interlinear gives us some idea what the philosophy was, but I want us to try to identify, you may have to look up a couple of commentaries today, what exactly was the philosophy that Paul was warning the believers at Colossae about? Like, hey, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy. What was specifically that philosophy? What was it? Did it have to do with the Jewish ascetics? Did it have to do with kind of Jewish mysticism? Did it have to do with kind of just being preoccupied with maybe certain things dealing with Judaism? Like, is that, like, how do we understand exactly what that philosophy was? So let's make that a major focus today. Identify the philosophy that the believers at Colossae were in danger of being spoiled by, that's the King James, or being taken captive by. Right? That's very important. And again, I think typically this verse, I've heard this verse preached almost like, see, all philosophy is bad. But I think the idea is, here's philosophy. Don't let anyone spoil you. Don't let anyone take you captive through philosophy. It's not that the philosophy is bad. It's what they do with it that then spoils you or captures you. So first, let's identify what is the philosophy that the church at Colossae was in danger of, right? Number two, I want you to think about your life and how maybe a philosophy, an ideology, an idea spoiled you or took you captive. I want you to just think through that. And then I want you to think of the possible philosophies, not in the world, but that Christians are in danger of because they're inside the church. What are the dangerous philosophies inside the church today? So what was the philosophy? What was the philosophy for the church of Colossae that the believers were in danger of? What are some philosophies you have been spoiled by or taken captive by that you had to, you finally saw and realized that you were wrong? And then what do you think the dangerous philosophies are inside the church today? That's what I want you to focus on. Those are specific things to focus for your today's focus. And I keep saying my original goal was when I do my introduction is to say, welcome to today's focus. But I keep wanting to say, welcome to your today's focus. But that does not sound grammatically correct, does it? But it is your today's focus. It's today's focus for you because I want you to focus in on this. That's the goal of this series, is to give you something to think about. So today, I guess we may use Colossians 2:8 for the next couple of days, right? Because vain deceit, that's something to consider by itself, right? I kind of wanted to mix that today. How is vain? Well, I won't add that to today's focus. I won't add that. So I originally went with the idea of vain philosophy. I still like that phrase, vain. I still like the phrase because I think philosophy would be, if we go with vain, it's meaningless, useless. But does the philosophy that spoils you or captures you is when you are being captured by a philosophy that is vain and meaningless in the sense that it is useless for your spiritual life. I'm trying to work that into it. It's just interesting that my mind immediately today just went with vain philosophy. Vain philosophy. I'm going to read it in a different translation. Yeah, just through philosophy. And then empty deceit. So the philosophy is not called vain. Whatever the deceit is, empty deceit. But does the empty deceit flow from the philosophy? Does the philosophy bring about the empty deceit? Oh, there's a lot we can do with Colossians 2:8. But today, what was the philosophy that the church of Colossae was in danger of? Beware of it. Hey, beware, guys. First of all, we got to understand what that was for them because we've got to see them first in the text. Then I want you to think about yourself. What are some vain, I want to go with the word vain. What are the philosophies that have captured you, spoiled you, right? And what do you think some of the philosophies are that are in the church today that people are in danger of being captured or being spoiled by? And I'm going to do a little work on that Greek word esomai because I don't understand that. That's just, you literally, it's almost like I think the Blue Letter Bible app is giving me the wrong Greek word and I don't have any commentaries here. I have a feeling we're going to be returning to this today. I think we're going to be doing today's focus part 2 because, well, there's a lot here to consider. So today's focus, Colossians 2:8. What was the philosophy? Your history with being spoiled or captured. And what are the philosophies you think are in the church that people are in danger of? That is today's focus for Thursday, October the 20th.